Hello dear friends. Every day it becomes more difficult to collect and interpret the coded messages that are circulating. Opinion piece. The harvest has started. Harvest songs. Harvest moon. Final moves. No more wars. Uranus challenges Saturn. The world will not go awry. Humankind will prevail. The bag of tricks is empty. Silver's big move. All is on hold for fear. It will come to the light at the right time. It will be talked about for thousands of years. World's best paella is cooked in Mexico. Kremlin officials call on Putin to step down. 50 million people live in conditions of slavery. Let's start. The great expected change is here, and the harvest moon on September 10th marked the beginning of the harvest, the reaping, the harvesting of everything, as the Vatican Bank is doing with its money to store in its comfortable viscoelastic mattress, according to Big's way. To mow means to cut crops or grass with a cycle, a scythe or any machine or purpose, especially that which protrudes or is higher, but it also means to cut or interrupt something abruptly. To thresh means to break up the harvest lying on the threshing floor and to separate the grain from the chaff. Harvest and threshing songs are a type of work song in the body of folk song originating from farm work, as one of the oldest chapters of primitive lyric poetry. Most of them are anonymous compositions, passed down orally. In addition to folk songs from all over the world, harvest and threshing songs, such as those of the grape harvest or other peasant or livestock work, can be documented in some musical works such as zarzuela and operetta. A gigantic solar flare has occurred next to the harvest moon. On the night of 5th September, a huge coronal mass ejection was recorded and exploded on the other side of the sun, sending a radiation storm through the solar system. It is a type known as halo ejection, in which an expanding halo of hot gas can be seen being ejected around the entire sun. Katis the C3 opines that it is very powerful what is going on behind the scenes, because the divine light is coming so strong that it is shaking creation, just like Schumann's inductive magnetic coils. As the darkness falls, so do our rivals. Silver's big move. With over 500 million ounces of silver coming out of the warehouses in the last 12 months, inquiring minds want to know who is getting so much silver. Asks Big's way. Stand aside during this transition with your silver in hand, no matter what price they set for anything. It's about surviving the end game and having something of value after the crash. According to Kitco News, gold is moderately higher, and silver has risen sharply in midday trading on Monday. Precious metals are supported by the depreciation of the dollar in the foreign exchange market. Final moves. We are now beginning to witness the final movement of the chess pieces before the world knows the truth about what has happened. We live in times that will be talked about for thousands of years. Before we came on the scene, the world didn't have an awakening, and there were gradual changes since 2012, according to the Mayan prophecy, but nothing of the magnitude of what we see today. Fear not what is happening. There will be no more wars, no more agendas, no more manipulation of our minds. The world will be purified and peace will reign in all nations of the earth. Humankind will prevail. All those who are well informed about the new world order know that this is the end of an era and that this is the beginning of a new one. Things are about to get very crazy, very fast. The gentleman formerly known as Prince Charles has already promised to use her in the Great Reset of Davos. The Queen has passed and now it looks like the operation is going ahead. The swearing ceremony will take place on the stone of Scone, on which Jacob rested his head according to the Bible, when he had the dream of angels ascending and descending upon him. Suspense. The Putin's office says there is a plan in place, so pay attention and let the group do what it must do. And this is what we can say. There are murky waters and shadowy machinations bouncing all over the place. Everything is simply on hold, and it has to be, because these weaklings are afraid to act. All that will come to light at the right time. Be of good cheer, for the world will not go awry. The big unanswered question is what happens to the money when the king dies. Banks are not as strict or as safe as they should be. Money has strangled many CEOs, and many bankers are trying to sort it out. Many have engaged in very unsavory activities and investments. The bag of tricks is now empty. There is a truly enormous amount of work to be done in the next few decades, and as said before, it will take millions of us to do this work. But first, we take baby steps, set up our office infrastructure, and then start to process the first humanitarian projects. Remember that our main focus is on children, the elderly, and water. We must take care of our future and honor our past. Water is life, and that requires little explanation. Reset News. Benjamin Fulford writes that most European governments are likely to collapse before the end of the month. Germany could lose its entire industrial system to the energy crisis, according to The Economist. Germany will pay some 135 million to farms affected by the energy crisis. Europe's states could go bust and its power sector become a thing of the past, writes The Economist. If Europe gets it right, in quotes, it can protect its citizens and continue the transition to a new, cleaner energy system. But if its actions are wrong, states could go bankrupt, and Europe's electricity sector will be stuck in the past, says the British magazine The Economist. Alarmed by Europe's energy crisis, Western partners only seem to be aggravating it further by capping the price of Russian oil. Belgium's Prime Minister fears serious risks of social unrest. In quotes, a few weeks like this and the European economy would grind to a halt, wants Belgian Prime Minister Alexander De Croo, who believes Europe must act immediately to tackle the energy crisis or risk the kind of fundamental economic shutdown from which the bloc would struggle to recover. What we are seeing today is a massive drain on prosperity, he concludes. Pam Gregory shares her astrology reading for the European Union. She foresees financial turbulence affecting the European Union and the Euro, as the old structures represented by Saturn continue to be challenged and replaced by the new ones symbolized by Uranus. Cyclist protest in Berlin. Hundreds of cyclists gathered at the Brandenburg Gate on Saturday to protest against the policies of German Chancellor Olaf Scholz and the increase in energy prices. Stransberry Research believes markets are on the verge of collapse as the Fed contemplates a rate hike above expectations. It looks like the markets are on a straight line on the downside, writes Todd Horwitz, and says the upcoming elections could trigger devastating effects on the markets. David Icke will not be mourning the Queen. The death has rekindled people's curiosity about royal secrets. Australians do not want King Charles III on their currency. Trump's surprise visit to Washington sparked speculation about arrests, according to Newsweek. Page from Princess Diana's notebook in her handwriting. In quotes, "My husband is planning an accident in my car, brake failure and serious head injuries to clear the way for him to marry Tiggy. Camilla is nothing but a decoy, so we all are." According to Ghost Ezra, a lot of people you think are alive are dead. All of this in quotes. And a lot of people you think are dead are alive. When you go in as a protected witness, you immediately get a new identity. Juan Sabin said that, in quotes, they would use the death of a world leader as an excuse to get together and have the conversations they need to have in person. They need a world conclave with all their globalist friends to get together and figure out how they are going to stop in less than 60 days what is in process. They are panicking, but no one is giving up. The whole plot comes from London. Venice is the floating city of the black nobility to secure the maritime law on earth. The round letter says Germany could collapse on 24th September, which equals 11th September in the Julian calendar. Their last resort is blackouts and chaos, with military on the streets and martial law. Buckle up because it's time to go. Peter Schiff writes that the ECB's fight against inflation may knock out the dollar as the ECB raises rates as European inflation outpaces US inflation. He adds that the UK government will worsen its energy crisis, and Powell admits we are on an unsustainable fiscal path. 50 million people live in conditions of modern slavery, according to the United Nations. American designer Calvin Klein has died. Jeff Bezos' Blue Origin unnamed rocket launch fails. An earthquake in Western China kills 93 people. Americas. The best paella in the world is cooked in Mexico. 2 Mexican chefs were recognized as the creators of the best paella in the world after participating in the International Paella Competition of Valencia, held in the Spanish town of Sueca. What is Taiwan looking for in Mexico with its investments? The Colorado River is bringing less and less water to northwest Mexico. Texas asks for refrigerators to store the bodies of migrants drowned in the Rio Bravo. In search of the American dream, Venezuelans cross into the US from Mexico hoping to gain asylum. Solar cars in Venezuela to survive petrol shortages and blackouts. Argentina soybean sales accelerate after the adoption of the soy dollar. Jews eat meat from Argentina. Plasticides are being put in animal feed, so Jews are eating meat from Argentina. Teva Kosher Meats moved production from California to Argentina. Arson fires aggravate Argentina's environmental crisis. Annual inflation in Argentina could reach 95% by 2022. The UK is once again promoting the Falklands in Uruguay. First agreements for a new constitution in Chile. Carnations and candles in Chile for the disappeared during the military dictatorship. Ecuador's president announces a referendum with low popular acceptance. A Colombian soldier denounces his commanders for asking for money. Haiti announces fuel price hike to finance social programs. Motorcyclists in Haiti protest against fuel prices increases. Bolivia gives the green light to a new biodiesel plant. Peruvian coca growers go on strike in protest at the eradication of their crops. Humankind Gate in Peru aligns with Richat structure in Mauritania. Has anyone noticed that the Gate of the Gods at Humankind in Marcoyo, Peru, aligns with the Richat structure on Guadane, Mauritania? To see this for yourself, you don't need to know about trigonometry. Just load Google Maps. Indigenous Brazilians prepare to make history and make a strong entrance into Congress. Spain. Spanish novelist Javier Marías dies. Spain buys twice as much gas from Russia as it did a year ago for the second month in a row. The Bank of Spain warns that the economy will slow down and inflation will last longer than expected. Spain and France remember 50 years since the death of Picasso. King Juan Carlos will attend a funeral for the Queen in London. Europe. European Union debates new energy measures as discontent grows over the crisis they generate. The energy crisis is forcing the Dutch to cut their showers to 5 minutes. European household discipline, no heating above 19 degrees Celsius, and no baths for more than 5 minutes. The US fears that the energy crisis in the European Union will turn Europeans against the West's strategy of isolating Russia, according to CNN. Amsterdam Airport asked airlines to cancel flights due to staff shortages. Gang violence and gang murders are on the rise in Sweden. Montenegro suffers massive cyber attack attributed to Russia. Dubai rejects a Danish request for the extradition of a financer. Russia. Russia aims to increase its agricultural production by a third by 2030. Russia stands up to Western pressure. Putin stressed that the country is standing up to external pressure and that the tactic of economic warfare didn't work. Russia's budget situation is now better than that of many G20 countries. The future of geopolitics will be determined in the Asia-Pacific region. As sanctions continue, Beijing and Moscow decide to use yuan and rubles. Indonesia considers buying Russian oil to mitigate inflation. Ukraine. Turkey confirms the departure of 9 more ships from Ukraine through the Black Sea corridor. Hungary believes that the European Union can be considered the loser in the Ukrainian conflict. Hungarian Parliament Speaker László Kövér says. European Union Council considers €50 billion macro-financial assistance for Ukraine. Germany and Poland discussed the creation of a maintenance center for weapons delivered to Kiev. Ukraine regains more territory and takes prisoners of war. Ukraine's repression of civilians in the Kharkov region is denounced. Russia attacks Ukrainian power plants for the second time. More than 300 Ukrainian soldiers were destroyed and 1,000 wounded, according to the Russian defense minister. In the Voznetsensk region, a depot storing 45,000 tons of Ukrainian armed forces ammunition was destroyed. Kremlin officials call for Putin's resignation. According to the Daily Mail, Putin has fired Lieutenant General Roman Berdinok after just 16 days in office, following his defeat in eastern Ukraine, which has seen Ukrainian forces pushed 30 miles from the Russian border and troops abandoning tanks, weapons and supplies. And that's all for today. Thanks a lot, dear friends.